Hello all you Pixel people, I am Pixel, and today I basically want to give you guys my very early impressions of the Call of Duty Black Ops 3 beta on the PC. So, I know that it actually ended a few days ago now, but I really wanted to take a little bit of extra time just to get all my ideas straight so I could attempt to keep this video fairly streamlined. Now, before I go into details, I also want to let you guys know my history with the Call of Duty franchise, because I know that COD in general can be quite a touchy subject on the PC, so please don't judge me too harshly. Personally, I am one of those guys that feel that while Call of Duty is certainly not what it used to be, it can still be a fair amount of fun if not taken too seriously. I also find myself in the anti-Infinity Ward camp ever since they released Modern Warfare 2, and I certainly do believe that Call of Duty Ghosts, Modern Warfare 2 and Modern Warfare 3 were pretty damn sucky on the PC. And while none of the Treyarch games have ever really managed to capture that magic of the original Call of Duty 4, well I say original, well Call of Duty 4, I have had a fair amount with each of their releases, most likely down to the simple fact that the Treyarch games have been much better PC ports in general, with a wide range of options and features specific for the PC. So with all that said, I have to say that I was pretty excited to get my hands on with Call of Duty Black Ops 3, and while I would not call it awful, I will say that there are some fairly huge concerns going forward. Now, because this is beta, and we certainly don't have access to the majority of the content that will be available in the full finished game, we should not really focus too much on stuff like weapon balance and the maps and the modes, and more try and focus on the overall concept and its execution and the stuff directly related to the PC version. Like performance, for instance. As I mentioned earlier, Treyarch have generally been fairly decent when it comes to PC versions of their games. However, as it stands right now, Black Ops 3 Beta has got to be one of the worst performing ports ever, possibly only beaten out from that top spot by the awful performance on the release of Call of Duty Ghosts a couple of years back. Now, I am running a 6-core i7 CPU, which is overclocked to 4.5 GHz. I have got an Nvidia GTX 980, 32GB of RAM, and I'm running on multiple SSDs in RAID 0. And if you're not one of those people that are into the PC tech, let me just say and assure you that my system is pretty damn beast, to be honest. Yeah, it struggles to hold a decent frame rate in the Black Ops 3 beta, and this is something that I was surprised about, especially when you compare it to the graphics that the game puts out. The game looks really dated in my opinion, and not just by a little bit. Personally, I do find it quite hard to distinguish any real improvement over Black Ops 2, which was released nearly 3 years ago. And what differences you are able to spot, I would argue, are simply not worth the performance cost it seems that they are obviously giving the game overall. Again, this is beta, so we could see a huge improvement in the performance before launch. It just seems like the performance would have to be gigantic to bring it up to where I believe it should be compared to the visuals. Now, if the frame rate was my only real issue with performance, then maybe I could be a little bit more understanding, but unfortunately it's not. My bigger issue overall is with the mouse input, because, like, wow, I have never felt this much input lag in any AAA first-person shooter on the PC, like, ever. Honestly, it felt like there must have been a good couple of 100 milliseconds of delay when moving the mouse and actually seeing the results on screen. I did manage to minimize this by locking my frame rate to around 90, because it seemed like the higher the frame rate went, the higher the input lag also went, and I know this sounds crazy and I really don't know what to say about it. Without a doubt, this is the worst mouse input for any Call of Duty game to date, and it came from Treyarch, something that I was really not expecting. I cannot stress how important that this is, and how important it is that it gets addressed, because this may be the first Call of Duty that I do not end up buying, because I personally cannot stand input lag. Anyway, with all that performance stuff out of the way, I do want to try and quickly explain a certain issue that I do have with the game, and this is really an issue which is not really a reflection on how good the game is overall, but majorly affects how good the game is on the PC, at least in my opinion. And that issue is simply how the game plays on the PC. Now, without giving you guys a full-blown history lesson on how games were developed, I want to kind of go back and talk about how games used to be developed on the PC and then transferred over to the consoles. Most first-person shooters were developed for the PC, and then they were ported over to the consoles, and some of the systems were simplified. And it worked okay. We saw this in the old Call of Duty games, we saw this in Unreal Tournament and stuff like that when the Xbox was released, and for the most part, everything seemed to work out fairly okay. And then time started to change. The consoles got a lot more momentum when it came to first-person shooters, and we started to see a lot more first-person shooters designed for the consoles and imported over to the PC. And generally, this was fairly okay as well, because everybody knows that a game normally does play out a little bit faster on the PC, and this is not a PC versus console debate. It's simply down to stuff like frame rates, input devices, and the average skill of player bases. Because on the PC, a lot of people are generally a lot more ingrained in the gaming culture compared to people on the consoles, where you get people which are working a 9 to 5 and a 40-year-old just go home and turn on the console for a couple of games. So generally the average skill of a player base, I would argue, is slightly higher on the PC, and again, this is not a dig. So what happened is the games were running faster on the PC and it was all fine, and then recently we've started to see more advanced movement systems and more advanced mechanics making their way onto console games, and this kind of same development cycle thing has still been happening. So basically they designed with the console in mind, then brought over to the PC, and basically they were playing okay. However, when the advanced movement came in, things started to change, because these were starting to play as fast as humanly possible on the console, so you bring them over to the PC, and honestly, it just started feeling a little bit random and chaotic, because we don't have the same limitations in the input devices that a console player may have, such as a console player has got the auto aim, which kind of negates some of the aim punch if you're aiming at somebody. It also allows you to track somebody flying through the sky when using the advanced movement, and on the PC you don't really have that. Also on the console you are kind of limited to your turn speed to the fastest that you can actually use your analog sticks, right? On the PC, you can basically do a 360 in a fraction of a second, something which is simply not possible on the consoles. So, on the PC, with this low time to kill that Call of Duty Black Ops 3 has, it just feels like you die instantly. It feels like it's a risk to use all the movement features. However, the movement system's so easy to use, you just want to spam it all the time. Generally, I think that this is an issue with parity between the console and the PC versions, and I would really like to see Treyarch in future, and hopefully for this release, maybe make a few tweaks to stuff like the time to kill, and maybe how you handle the movement and the slowing down and the acceleration on the PC version to allow it to be a better PC version, because right now, like I said, the overall game quality is not really kind of hit when it comes to these kind of decisions. However, the console, the PC version, should I say, is, and it is mainly down to the parity issue. So finally, before ending the video with what is my TLDR, basically the performance currently sucks and needs an awful lot of work before full release. And while the game is still your kind of typical COD experience, for one of the first times ever, I honestly believe that this is going to be much more fun and just simply a better game on the consoles. I have very strong feelings about how do I say it? No, I'm just gonna say it. This is going to be most likely the first Call of Duty game ever that I don't buy, if these things aren't changed or fixed, because it's a console game brought over to the PC, and I know a lot of people would say that this has been COD for the longest amount of time, and it's true, but generally it kind of played out okay. Anyway, these are my impressions. If you agree or even disagree, then please do leave me a comment in the comment section below this video. And if you've liked this video, please remember to leave it a like, because it really does give me a helping hand. Also, if you are new to this channel, don't forget to slap that subscribe button for some more PC gaming goodness. Once again, I am Pixel. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to watch this video. And until next time, bye bye.